Welcome. It's the end of summer, and although no one asked for it, there's time for one last Connect This. So we're going to get started with our part of our wonderful Hall of Fame crew here, and Travis is going to wander in whenever he feels like it. We do think he's on the way, but we're going to get started with Kim McKinley from UTOPIA Fiber. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you for having me, Chris. And just need to ask, is this show number 100?
This is show 99.75. We are trapped in Zeno's paradox. We cannot get there. We keep going halfway. But we may have an episode 100 in September. So you know, we'll cross that bridge when we get there, or at least half of it.
Okay, I was just asking.
So since we don't have Travis' introduction, what's life like in Utopia? How are things going?
You know, we're busier than ever. It's never a dull moment at Team Utopia. We are seeing some of our highest sales months coming out of this summer, and we're excited to go into the fall. I'm excited because I like warmer clothes, but go ahead.
Well, in 2020 and 2021, you were doing gangbusters, so that's really good that those expansions have allowed you to grow even further then.
Yeah, no, we are still growing and seeing uptake in all of our existing cities, and I think that is a testament to what we do at Team Utopia. Also, and with that being said, you're seeing some price competition in our markets that we've never seen before, of the $35 gig and all of these others. You're seeing from some of these competitors, major incumbents, who are losing a substantial share of customers. So it's interesting to see the competition coming into some of these markets that I've been at Utopia for 14 years that I've never seen on this level, at this level.
Awesome.
So it's interesting time.
All right. Down in Doug, how's the competition in Asheville? Are you still stuck on Charter?
You had to rub that in. Yeah. I'm just really curious, if it's the last show of summer, why does Kim have her winter coat on?
She's preparing. Like, if you go to a store, you can't buy summer clothes anymore. So
no, you can't.
Yes. I buy a new set of clothes every time I go on Connect This. So I mean, this is all that was in the store.
This is all they had. Okay.
This is all they had.
I was gonna run to Burlington Coat Factory real quick because, like, you know, as soon as this show's over, they'll start getting the spring stuff out, and you want to get there before you miss your opportunity.
By next week, it'll be swimsuits. Yeah.
So, Doug,
I love how this has become a fashion show.
Apparently, without Travis, we'll just do anything without Travis. Apparently, Doug, welcome back. I'm Chris Mitchell with the Institute for Local Self-Reliance. Today, we're going to be talking about a bunch of topics that Doug has recently discussed on his blog, because I don't know, I don't feel like a lot's happening. But if I'm wrong, people should go in the chat room and let us know what news stories we should be covering that are hot. But we're going to talk about some of the recent numbers we've seen in terms of how the market is doing for fixed wireless versus more wired connections. We're going to talk about something that I'm really interested in, which is CBRS and potential rule changes. And then, even more importantly, perhaps some uninformed speculation about the future of spectrum sharing, which is where that real action is, I think, to try and free up more spectrum. I think we're going to come back and talk more seriously about should states give money to low Earth orbit satellite companies as part of BEAD to make sure that everyone has something or not. The answer is no. I'm going to be pushing hard for that. But if everyone says no, then I'll explain why the wrong answer is yes. And there's some good logic, but it's still wrong. We're going to talk about TV and sports and what's happening to the channel lineups and things like that. We're going to talk about other trends around pricing. And then if there's time, I want to talk a little bit about where you get your telecom news, because I don't know, it seems like it's hard to find some of the sources we used to hit before. Obviously, Telecompetitor and Fierce and ILSR and others are still doing good work, Broadband Breakfast. But the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and others, I feel like CNN recently getting rid of Brian Fung, I don't know, like the mainstream outlets have given up on telecom. And then finally, we might talk a little bit about the next FCC, what to expect. So plenty of topics to jump into. let's jump in first. Well, before I do that, I do want to say, I should say, I don't always do this, but I want to thank Rye. Rye's been wonderful on making sure the show would still happen over the summer, as I've been trying to take time off, and time flies when you're in a water park. So Rye's making sure that we're still doing shows, and really appreciate that. Those of you that don't like the show, you can blame Rye. So fixed wireless access, FWA versus wired. Doug, you were covering this. We did talk about this last year, and I in a recent show I also had mentioned that I feel like a lot of people thought the fixed wireless gains would slow down. What is happening there?
Everybody was surprised this last quarter, which ended in June 30th. They got more customers. So then, just in the last quarter, that technology, which to remind everybody, that's where the cell companies are selling a connection directly from the cell tower to your house. And so that, that is your broadband, and it has speeds up to, they advertise in most markets either 100 or 300 megabits. There's a few places where they're actually advertising gigabit, and I can talk about that in a second. But in the last quarter, they added 933,000 customers, where all the other big ISPs together lost customers. And so
all the wired ones.
All the wired ones. I mean, telcos combined gained 35,000 customers for the quarter, and the big cable companies lost 300,000. Now, these are not total numbers, because nowadays there's 4 companies who don't report their customers anymore because they're privately held. So Cox doesn't give out their numbers, and Windstream doesn't give out their numbers. So Cox is the only sizable company that doesn't give out their numbers. So the other guys are pretty little. So, but still, I mean, the whole industry gain of these giant companies, like the biggest 15 guys, gained 860,000, but the FWA gained 933,000. So the big news is really the cable companies are losing customers finally. So
right. When we're talking about numbers at this volume, and I'll say, hey, Travis, welcome. We just jumped into the first topic. Obviously, smaller fixed wireless companies may also be doing well. It's harder to track. They don't report their numbers either, but we're focused really on the large telecom companies that do report their numbers, and so we have a sense of how that shifts things.
Well, and this is a different technology than the small guys use. This is cellular, using a cell tower, using cellular equipment. So it's not the same technology. It's similar.
Do you think this is?
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you think this is a lot because of how much T-Mobile is out there just marketing the heck out of this product? Like, I'm seeing them market the heck out of this product, and maybe bringing awareness to this. And because what I'm seeing at Team Utopia, and Travis, you can probably kind of pipe in here too, is that you might see lose some of these guys for a while, but then they tend to call back in and sign back up with us after they experience what some of fixed wireless can do for you.
We haven't had a mic check yet on Travis.
Well, sorry. I was Googling what the weather was like in Utah, because apparently Fighter Command here has decided to roll out their bomber and be on our show today. Is it cold there, Kim?
Yeah. You already missed the
You've missed so much, Travis.
Our fashion segment.
Yeah.
The whole audience also missed my initial rant because I came in with a sour face on and I already ranted. So, Travis, you missed everything. I don't know what you're hearing.
What are we talking about? Cell phone in a box or what?
No. So the question is whether you are seeing people moving over to like fixed wireless and then coming back, is what Kim asked you.
Yeah. I mean, fixed wireless, it has its place, but if you're a serious internet user, it really doesn't tend to work for people that well. So, but I would say the highly casual users, they they can save $10 on it. And it seems to be good enough. Let's put it that way.
Now, Doug, you had mentioned that is FWA the mobile fixed wireless, and FWB is what we talk about in terms of like the other, when we talk about it with smaller providers and things.
I never heard it called FWB, just fixed wireless.
Fixed wireless broadband.
Okay.
Maybe FWB. I just made it up. We should use that from now on. It would be very clear.
All right.
People.
From now on, I'm going to say brought by Chris Mitchell. So, but yes, FWA is cellular, using cellular spectrums. They use the very same spectrum from that cell tower to get your phone. So it's mixed in.
I saw an analysis that suggested that fixed wireless access on that is only profitable as long as they do not have to upgrade cell capacity. And so they can sell it, and as soon as they max out the cell, they're done. And that if they wanted to increase capacity to sell more, it would not be a good deal for them, and they should not do that.
Well, yeah, because what they're doing here, think about it, cellular pricing for your cell phone, for how much they charge for data versus this, they're getting like 5% of the revenue. I mean, they're not hardly getting paid for these bits they're using. They make so much money on a cell phone data plan. And here, I mean, they're giving you like 50 times more bits for the same price. It's really, it's killing their network. So now they've all said that they're talking about upgrading to even faster mid-range spectrum and getting speeds up to a gigabit, which means they're going to have to massively beef up their infrastructure behind it, the backhaul. And if they do that,
they'll be able to compete better with Charter, who's crushing it right now in North Carolina.
Yeah.
He just froze Doug.
Well, I don't know how it's going to work here because my cell phone's not even very reliable here. So. Mountain towns are not good for wireless. Yeah.
But we've talked about this for hundreds of episodes where
99.75 episodes, I believe.
I'm still.
We've already discussed that too. We haven't gotten to 100. We're gonna be like next one's gonna be 99.76. Like we're just gonna go up by one. Go ahead, Travis.
No, I'm convinced, and I have absolutely no data about this whatsoever. But that still doesn't mean I don't believe it. That wherever there's a quality fiber network in a town or in a city or anywhere, that takes all the high volume users and all the high consumption customers and leaves the alternate technologies, if I can say it correctly, technologies, that work well enough, and I would put FWA in that bucket.
But this is the issue, and from a policy perspective, and this is where I spend all my time, and Kim spends part of her time, is then we should not allow that to be considered a proper technology. It shouldn't be considered on the same wavelength as other technologies that can actually connect everyone. Right? The fiber can go to everyone's home. Everyone can have a great opportunity. Fixed wireless from the big cell phone companies will never connect everyone. It will always be leaving a significant number of people out, and even those who are connected, it's just not very stable. So, I think it's great to have it in the market as an option, but as you're crafting policy around making sure people are well connected, it kind of throws things off when you allow that to gobble up subsidies.
Yeah, each of those cell towers can only serve maybe 600 or 800 people on this technology, and if they give them more backhaul, they could do more. But there's also a limit on how many you can connect with the radios. So, that's in a metro area. They're not even looking at 1% coverage and they're full. So, yep.
I do have to, which is this policy you speak of, Mr. Mitchell? The giving the way of the monies?
Well, all policy around internet access, including the BEAD program, which maybe we'll get into. We'll see.
Can I ask right now, how many people has the BEAD program in a lifetime infrastructure plan hooked up to the internet today? Kim McKinley.
Can I answer it? 0.
Okay, we're still at 0. Okay, I want to make sure.
All right. Thank you, Travis and Ms. Lindbergh.
Policy is working. Okay.
Wait, I think Chris. I believe that we have found Amelia Earhart. So.
Yes, we have.
She was hiding behind
I would say
glasses.
FWA is far more effective than BEAD policy to this date. So.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about that, Travis. And this is like your statement like that, which is provocative and entertainingly so. It just reminds me of the person who jumps out the window and 30 floors down. He's asked, "How's it going?" And he says, "Pretty good so far."
Well, it hasn't hit yet. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's an accurate statement, Mr. Mitchell. So,
Nick would like to know when we think the first BEAD customer will be connected, and I guess I would say third quarter next year.
Ooh, we have a vote.
Yeah, sometime during the third quarter, somebody will get one in. Yeah, it's not going to be a whole lot of
I'm
people.
going with the
Yeah.
We got
first quarter 2026. First quarter 2026. I'm going in. What are you going, Travis?
2029 second quarter.
This would be an easy one to write down. Ryan, would you mind writing this down?
Well,
I got to give Travis some credit here, because the one thing that could still happen to Beat is somebody could sue it using all of this. The fact is the NTIA has badly overstepped their bounds. And we talked a few shows ago about the Chevron thing. Somebody could sue them and say, you can't do what you're doing. It would come to a screech. It would come to a screeching halt.
There is plenty of time for Congress, and we made a joke about this in the last show. Congress could very well, and actually maybe it was on the last show. I think I was joking with Travis about it, that what could very well happen is that Republicans could pull the plug on this if they take the House and Senate, especially if they win all three. And what would happen then is that we would have gotten several years in which hundreds of broadband people were trained in how to do broadband at the federal government and for the states, and then no one in the rural areas would actually get the broadband. And so it actually would be a kind of a huge gift to Democrats if the Republicans decided to kill this program, which I just think is pretty funny. It'd be horrible for a lot of small ISPs and bigger ISPs out there. I've talked to some folks. I talked to an FPO recently, and I asked whether they thought that they would really see states have significant boycotts of this, and they are saying that they do not think they're not expecting that. They really do think there's going to be bids in a lot of these areas.
Well, I think we should
somehow we got on Beat. I don't know. That was a good trade.
We need to have a wager here.
Travis.
Yeah.
Well, we have the wager. Whoever is the most wrong buys the wings. So Travis, you're at 2029. Doug and I are both early. I don't know if you're going to allow Doug and I to be in the same space. I'm going to say October of 2025.
Yeah.
I'll take.
You have to pick a month.
I'll take September.
Ooh. Oh. Doug is the most positive one on this bet. Right. That's not something we usually see.
Doug knows something too. God dang it. He's consulting people on this stuff.
All right. While we're on Spectrum.
I can't make the states go any faster, Travis.
All right.
While we're on Spectrum, let's talk about CBRS. What's happening with the rule tweaks, Doug?
Well, it was actually always called an experimental license, even though everyone's been allowed to use it. They never solidified the rules. And so,
hang on, the
Charter has a bunch of these licenses, but they're not using them in Doug's neighborhood. Not using them.
No, and they're not very robust anyway. But for cities, there's like 20 things they want to tweak to try to make it more permanent. Like right now. There's interference between the military who uses it and some of these ISPs. So they want to fix that kind of stuff. And then they want to fix the neighboring spectrum so that they all work together well. But the big thing that is a real controversy is AT&T wants to make much more stronger signals so that'll carry further. And if they do that, that'll higher power, and that'll wipe out all these little wisps if they do that. Because what'll happen is AT&T's signal will go for a whole county, and then they'll say, well, you can't, because this stuff is a shared spectrum, and if the main license holder uses it a lot, because they want to use it for cellular, and so if they use it for cellular, it'll never be available for anything else is what will happen. So, yeah.
Right, because it's...
How big is the channels, though? Aren't they like tiny? 10 megahertz channels?
They're 20s, yeah.
I think the PAL is a 20, right? But the GAA, the general access, if you haven't paid money, if you bought that and you hop on, then it's 10, I think, right?
Yeah. And it's, I mean, these are not great spectrum. But what they do is they allow you to say, I'm a licensed holder, even though you're still serving everybody with Wi-Fi. So yeah, it's crazy
but
rules.
At the same time, like CTIA, that's right? CTIA, the Wireless Association, they are pushing hard that this has been a total failure and we shouldn't have any more spectrum sharing like this. I feel like this has been,
that's the big battle. They don't want spectrum sharing. Yes.
right, because they represent companies that have a monopoly use of spectrum, and if we share spectrum more efficiently, which will be good for all of us, it will be bad for those who have a monopoly on a bunch of it, because it will not be as valuable. So boohoo for them. Spectrum sharing is wonderful. I don't know if Travis, if you're as bullish on it as I am, but I think that this has been enough of a success that I'd really like to see more bands using this model, so we can actually
what do you view as success, though? What do you view as success in this?
I can answer that. Success is it gets used outside of the cities. The big guys make all these claims and scream and yell, and they only use it in the cities. I mean, they don't use AT&T is not using this spectrum out in the middle of nowhere. So.
And I know that, tribes are using this effectively. And for me, this is one of the highest profile examples, because there is a ton of spectrum on tribal land that is not being used by anyone, and they are not allowed to use to connect. And we're talking about, in particular with Hopi and Navajo, these wide open areas, which are super impractical to bring fiber to, where they often don't have electricity. And if we could just use some of the spectrum that is being totally unused, we'd be able to connect people a lot better.
I've always expected one of those tribes with a giant service area to just declare sovereignty and start using that other spectrum. I've always thought
encouraged them to, but no one wants to pay for the lawsuits.
Yeah, because they're not going to interfere with anybody. I mean, down where the Hopi are, I mean, the next place they can interfere with is a day and a half's drive away. I mean, geez. So, yep.
Yeah, I don't know how much I'd be messing around with the CBRS anymore. There's just not enough spectrum.
It's not big enough.
But that's the point, Travis. If they had 4 times as much spectrum, would you start to raise an eyebrow?
No, but if I was a tribe today, I'd do 6 gigahertz, 180 megahertz channels, and I'd provide gigabit wireless service.
Have you seen the Ewok movie, the third one, Star Wars movie?
Yeah.
So that was filmed in Northern California, and I think they're finding that 6 gigahertz doesn't work so well, whereas 2.5 and 3.5 are working quite a bit better.
Sure, but then you might have to do more cells then, to make it work. I just think there's no other band where there's enough frequency. Sure, 2.5 might propagate better, but you're not going to get hardly any capacity and enough customers on it to make it work. So,
they're also doing fiber.
180 megahertz. You run fiber between 2 towers. You can cover a lot of space.
Mm-hmm. So you just you don't see it. You're not enthusiastic about spectrum sharing for any of the stuff you're doing.
I mean, I'd love it if they opened up 7 gigahertz and did spectrum sharing on it. Sure. I mean, it makes it a lot more viable when you're not interfering with either yourself or other people.
Mm-hmm.
But you get 5 or 6 wisps that stack on top of each other, then there's still not enough spectrum available. So,
and that's where the real issue comes in.
Yeah.
When you say sharing doesn't work when there's 6 wisps in the market. So,
and they're all in the same tower. So, no, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I like it, but I think the 6 gigahertz will be far more effective than the 2.5 or the 3.65 bands that are so small. And there'll be a lot more equipment available in 6 gigahertz. At a better price. Or you do like a Tirana thing where they're going to do 5, 6, 3, 6, do them all, right? But now you're talking about $1,000 radio for a home. Now the math starts to really hurt.
I want to move on to what Travis was needling me about before. And I feel like maybe we got a little bit off on that, and maybe I just forgot it. But this question about whether states should reserve some of their BEAD dollars for low Earth orbit satellites. And I was coming out hard against it, and Travis was pushing my buttons. But Kim, you were at Connect, at the Mountain Connect. That's how this all came about originally. And I'm just curious if you wanted to share your perspective as someone who's been a lifelong advocate of fiber.
I think that in some of these rural areas that they should be eligible for some of the BEAD money. The problem is that they are not going to the most remote locations. I think there needs to be some boundaries around it if they're going to get federal funding. But I do think that if it's 10 miles away, this home is 10 miles away from the next house, I don't think it makes sense to It will never make financial sense to build fiber to that area. But I think why not right now? But that's my little personal perspective. Back to you, Chris.
Doug?
Well, the issue is, here's why it's even an issue, because there are those locations, and absolutely for those locations. The problem is the NTIA has a rule that you can't give the BEAD money to anybody until you've found a solution for every single unserved place. And so the states are going to
have the money to solve all those, though, because this has been a misconception. Like, you have to have a plan to connect everyone, but you don't have to have the resources to execute it.
And so they're going to get themselves to 90%, and they're going to go, let's just give the last 10%, and they're not going to care where they're at. They're going to be right. Remember, RDOF chopped up the world into.
Hang on, the CBRS spectrum is shifting right now. Go to a new channel. Hold on.
They're surrounded, so.
Sorry, Doug, we just lost the last 7 seconds again.
We did. You
have a storm going on? What is happening over there?
No, I have a nice sunny day, and Charter doesn't like nice sunny days. Yeah.
Well, so I think Kim's answer is perfectly great right up until she gives money to the Leo company. Like, I don't understand what we've set aside money, and theoretically it's supposed to benefit every home. At the moment you start giving it to the company, you're not benefiting the home anymore, because it's not like they're getting a discount on that service or anything. And it's not even clear to me.
No, they're going to be required to give you that $600 receiver for free.
You think that's what it's going to buy?
The rules they put out on Monday said that. Yeah.
So there's someone who hasn't been on vacation all week that's helping to answer that question. Thank you.
Yeah, but that's about all you're going to get. It's still going to be $120 a month. So yeah.
Well, if you're living out there, I mean, there's rural poverty, and if we have a broadband subsidy program, you can make a case that it should be eligible for that. But I think Kim's case is right. I don't know that I've been a opponent of the Biden administration's messaging on this from the start, that it's going to connect everyone. It's not connecting everyone. The goal shouldn't be to connect everyone. The goal should be to do the best we can with the money we have available. Travis, what are you thinking about all of this?
I just think it's something that it's well, we saw it, go back a few 50 episodes here, the difference between Starlink and cellular internet. When I did my little road show, Starlink's amazing. It's available today. It can solve a problem today. If what Doug said is true, that people can get the receiver for low cost and get online. I mean, I know I've got 3-4 friends. It's been a game changer for them, for where they live, and they live right between nowhere and nothing, Montana. Right. I mean, there's no way you're going to bring a cable out there. So, I mean, I like the idea, and it's a proven tech. I mean, it works. It works pretty well.
Do those areas have electricity, or are they living off grid?
Well, it depends on some off grid, but some have electricity. That was built during the Wilson administration, back when you could actually get something done, Mr. Mitchell.
I've been recently checking out there's a conversation we had about the costs of building some of the bridges and stuff like that compared to their cost of substantial rehab and stuff like that. And it's remarkable, the difference in cost now. I'd like to next see the breakdown of how much this money is going to the people who are doing the work on the ground versus lawyers and environmental reviewers and stuff like that. I don't think the environmental reviewers is like huge, but I would be curious to know, like, if someone could do a really cool chart that shows like the different like breakdowns of all the costs, that would be fascinating.
Well, Doug, what do you think a bypass cost for fiber in 2010 was versus today? Any guess?
And what do you mean by bypass cost?
I mean the construction cost to bring it.
Oh,
we're about double.
Yeah, I'd say double.
So is that materials and labor, or are there new requirements, or what's causing
materials and labor?
But it's mostly labor. It's labor layout.
But Travis, you're also building closer to the river, and everything that you've told me suggests.
But I'm just saying, I've always told people, if they're going to build a fiber network, today is the cheapest day you'll ever do it.
Yeah,
right.
And we rarely talk about operating that fiber network too. Kim's 10-mile example. Every time there's anything that happens, you have to locate that fiber line. I mean, it's expensive to, repair it when they dig it up every year when they're planting crops. I mean, it's there's a lot of maintenance that goes into these networks. With not a lot.
All right, so Rye raises a good question, which is which gets us into this question of the lifespan. This program was designed to be building networks that would be, decades of worth of investment. That's part of the reason it's made sense to put this much money into it. It's going to result in higher productivity and benefits like well past the next 20, 30, 40 years. You buy a receiver for LEO, who knows what that house is going to be doing in 4 or 5 years. And is it just their problem at that point?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they're not going to Starlink's not going to give you a free second one. No way.
Well, but hold on. Are you going to get a brand new ONT every 5 to 7 years?
No, we don't need one.
Well, of course you need one.
I mean, I would guess that my XGS PON ONT is probably going to be on the side of homes for a very long time. Travis, I would guess that you'll probably have some homes that have a 20-year ONT on them when you're doing some upgrade in the next 10, 15 years.
I've probably in the last 15 years had 4 cable modems. You're gonna any of these
right. No, but that's different from like if it's a government program to try and get people connected permanently in the home. That's the question I'm raising. Kim, raise your hand.
Okay.
Well, I think that you're right, Chris, to some extent. We're still trying to get off some old 100 meg ONTs that were probably installed in 2005 that just won't die, and the customer doesn't want to call us back to get the upgrade too. But they do last that long. Should they be in the home that long? Absolutely, probably not. There should be a rip and replacement program. What we're going to have to do for some of our last customers is just like almost go knock on their door and say, we have to replace your equipment to get it out there. So kudos to the manufacturers who did that. But yeah, these things, there is going to be ONT replacement costs. Travis is absolutely right on that. Similar to what you're going to see on the other side.
So the thing is that like when there's an ONT replacement, so right now, let's just say I'm going to pick on one of my favorites up here, CTC is going to build, get BEAD money. Let's say, for example, they connect.
Wait. Why are we picking on Lumen? Cool.
Because somebody owns stock. Somebody owns stock.
I don't want to, with all of my wealth, I don't want and influence. I don't want the FCC asking me questions. So CTC is gonna get BEAD dollars to connect a home. They're gonna put a ONT inside that home to bring them connections to the network. In 7, 9, 12 years, they're gonna replace that ONT, and at that point, they're not gonna charge a customer for it. That's just the way it works. In the fiber network, the revenue comes from all that. Whereas the LEO, the customer pays for it. Where you don't pay for an ONT, but you do pay for the receiver. Go ahead, Travis.
Well, I think on the XGS, the thing you got to remember is there's manufacturer obsolescence built into these products, where a lot of equity-backed companies won't run without manufacturer's warranty and service, so they'll obsolete you before the tech dies. And secondarily, I guess is that what happened? Do we really know that's what happens with like Starlink? If they upgrade and obsolete your antenna, you got to buy another one.
I've never shocked if that's not the case, but yeah. I mean, if someone knows or could look into it, that would be great.
Well, they don't have a policy. They don't have a policy yet because nobody's had to do that yet.
Yeah, nobody's been around long enough, and so I'm just telling you that if they go buy somebody's XGS PON platform, that the tech will be the manufacturer warranty will be off before the equipment actually fails. So yes, there will need to be upgrades that happen.
But my point is that like almost every fiber network does not charge for the ONT, whereas as far as we know, all the LEO subscriptions require you to pay for the receiver.
Well, Chris, they actually do charge you for it. They just put it into your monthly fee. So it's just
fair enough. Fair enough. The point is, there's no novel new line item fee.
Yeah, I've never seen a Starlink dish expire yet. Is all I'm saying. So I don't know how they would do I don't know how they do end of life.
Travis, the words you're looking for are Chris. You're right. You finally did it, Chris. You made a correct point. And
100 episodes, and I told you I would when we started this.
99.75. 99.75 episodes get it.
What are we, a radio station now? 99.2, huh? I told you I would argue the opposite side, even if I didn't believe it. So,
Yeah, and I have the text to prove it. What's happening with TV and sports? I've been sort of fascinated with this. I guess up here, fans of the Twins have been really struggling with whatever Bally calls itself today. And, you know, in the meantime, a lot of sports seems like they're having online streaming platforms, but there's still a mess between. So I thought we'd just check back in. Doug's been writing about it lately. What's going on, Doug?
Well, the three big guys who are Fox and Disney, ESPN, then they got together and they wanted to launch a new thing that would have 80 sports channels on it. So basically, that would be like 80 to 90% of all sports events. And there's still stuff that's, there's like Sunday night sports on weird channels. I think Facebook has it, one of them. So, but they would have most of the games, right? And it was going to be $42 a month. And they got sued by Fubo TV, and the courts agreed with Fubo TV that they're not letting them launch because
I think it's Fubo.
Fubo. And their argument was all of our customers will leave because we all know they'd rather just have that package. And the court bought that argument.
Okay, thank goodness, Doug. When I was reading your article, I was like, I don't even understand how this is even possible that they're not able to launch something. I was like, am I reading this incorrectly?
You can buy Disney movies without buying all your other stuff. Why can't you buy sports without buying other stuff? I mean, it'll get overturned at some point. I know they'll win because it doesn't. What is the argument of what the courts of why they said this was a justified injunction right now? Well, she said that the people putting it on have a monopoly on sports and that's a monopoly business because they're the only ones who actually have the contracts with the sports providers. But what she really said was bundlers have more right than customers. I mean, she said Fubo TV has more rights than Travis, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm mad about it because I'd save $20 a month, but because I have to buy something more expensive to get the sports, and I don't watch any of the other stuff.
So I think this is something that we can ask Gigi Sohn if she would like to come on and to share with us. She's working with Fubo now, I believe, on this, and I think that this gets into antitrust, which is somewhat complicated, and the federal government, I think, rightly has an interest in making sure there's not a restraint of trade, basically, which is to say that making sure that few companies that have special benefits or special access to things can't run everyone else out of the market. And for me, the most clear example of this, and this actually is similar to the net neutrality arguments, but it goes back to the Schuylkill Canal in Pennsylvania, when the Schuylkill Canal was the only way to get like resources and coal and timber and other stuff out of major areas of Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth passed a law that said that if you operated the canal, you could not have an interest in other extractive industries because you would benefit yourself. And we saw similar things with oil and the railroads and just all manner of stuff. And so that's really all manner of stuff. That's a brilliant summary that courts are the tradition of all manner of stuff. But the point is that like these things can look like it's a ridiculous thing to claim in terms of it not being fair to Fubo or not being legal for them to create this cartel of sorts and lock Fubo out. But there may actually be very good arguments on the other side of it.
But they're not locking Fubo out. Fubo has all this programming. They have all these channels today. Their problem is they make you take, all the other stuff, all the news channels and the movie channels, because you have to buy a bundle from them. There's nothing to stop Fubo from doing a sports-only version of their product. And Fubo actually has an advantage.
Actually, you don't know that, I think, because of the carriage contracts, right? I mean, like they may be required to have a bunch of other.
And maybe that will be
Travis knows you negotiated these.
And maybe that will be the solution here. But Fubo actually has something that they don't have. They are the biggest carrier of all those international soccer things that the other guys don't have. So
yeah, that's how I became familiar with Fubo. But that's where, I mean, I suspect that one of the issues might be that if Fubo goes to ESPN, Disney, and says we want Disney, they say you got to take Viacom, you got to take Comedy Central, you got to take this, you got to take that.
Right.
And if they don't have access to create the same stuff, then there's probably a good cause of action, I would think. Travis?
And that's probably it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you're right, Chris. When you go to negotiate a carrying contract, I mean, you got to take all this extra stuff and pay for it. Now, I don't watch sports, so I would love a scenario where I didn't have to pay for it month over month just to have access to it. But what's so funny about this? Remember back in the day with cable, nobody wanted all the bundles because it was so expensive, and now we're basically right back when we went a la carte. Then it got to be more expensive than the bundles. Now we're going back to the bundles, and then
it's so frustrating. I'm curious, Kim. In the mind of the consumer, I'm curious as a marketing person. Like, I'm very much having a get off my lawn moment of people being like, I'm tired of having so many choices of different providers. Like, I just want to have one bill and have everything available to me. I'm just like, shut up.
Yeah,
you are that old person now. Now I can really see it, Chris, of how old you are. Something that resonated with me. This is when all of this unbundling happened. So it seems like 2 years ago, but it was probably 10 plus years ago. And one of the providers posted something on their Twitter that said, be careful for what you ask for. Look at how the airlines unbundled everything. And now everybody's pissed that they get nickeled and dimed on their luggage, their Cokes or whatever. And I think you're seeing that same thing of when all the airlines unbundled and now you're seeing some of them bring it back. You're seeing the exact same thing in the telecom industry. I think that if you ask me today, I think I have 2 streaming services, but if you ask my credit card bill, it probably has 10. I have no idea. It is a problem of like, how do you keep track of what is being charged? $5.99 here, $5.99 there. You don't notice it. So as a person in this industry, I'm not saying that I would like for it to go back bundled, but I would probably save more in the long run if I did it that way.
Doug? So, I want to see if Doug wanted to say something before Charter interrupted him.
Nah, I just want to buy sports only and none of the other crap. So I'm very, this is for my own personal preference. I've been asking for this for 10 years. So yeah.
Well, when do you think, Doug, I mean, as of right now, my impression is that you are not able to buy like one thing and get all of the NFL games. Do you think we're going to get to that point? Or because what Amazon has Thursday night and like this and that and all this way it's all spread out and everything. Are we going to get to a point where we're going to be able to just do that simply?
No, even after all this, because the NFL split it out like 11 ways now. There's Monday night games, Thursday night games, Friday night games. They're not going to bring them all together because they're.
Just wait, everyone. He's coming back.
Yeah. Coming back.
You're back.
Am I back? Okay. No, I mean, the NFL split it up 11 ways. They're not going to put it all back together. What they want you to do. Now, here's an interesting question because you can buy the NFL package to get them all directly from the NFL. So they do allow you to do that. So. And it's like
none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense of this ruling at all. Of what's actually out there.
Yeah, the NFL is actually doing what ESPN wanted to do here. So yeah, it doesn't make sense.
We'll keep track of it, but I just want to remind everyone that Jessica Rosenworcel and all the other commissioners at the Federal Communications Commission would like you to know that Doug has a great internet connection. He has a gigabit to his home. There is no problem to be solved. If there's one thing that pretty much everyone in Washington, D.C. agrees, it's that there is no problem to Doug's home. Doug is well connected. There is no problem.
I never thought I would see a rant involving Doug's internet connection on Connections.
I just like this is like most of the time we get through this without a glitch from Doug. Sometimes it's really awful, but there's people in Eastern North Carolina who go like many hours every day without service from like freaking Suddenlink or whatever they're calling themselves today, and like all these people from the Federal Communications Commission look at a map and they're like, nope, it's not red, so like it's not a problem, and it just infuriates me that nobody. I feel like very few people understand the problems that we have because of bad data, but also because of a illiteracy and ability to read data and know what it's actually telling you. So Doug has a fine connection 95% of the time, and frankly, that's not good enough. It wouldn't be good enough for electricity. It wasn't good enough for telephone. It shouldn't be good enough for internet access.
Okay, I have one more question. Yeah, that was a rant. Number two, I was just wondering if we needed to spend more money on those maps to get them as accurate as you think they should be.
It's always the answer. There's only one answer. Trends around pricing. Doug, is it going up or down? I forget. I didn't read the article too closely.
Well, there's a couple things. Prices are going up. Well, there's markets where it's going down. She's in one. All of a sudden, when there's real competition, prices go down, right? So there are markets where prices
temporarily. In some areas, temporarily, right? Like we would not expect the long-term price to really go down, although it could. Like, let's be clear, right? If you go to Europe, somehow they figured out how to do it for a lot less, but we would not expect that dynamic to happen here, I don't think.
No, but I mean, Charter and Comcast have now raised rates, what, 8-9 years in a row, Travis? I mean, it's a long time that they keep raising rates every year. It's not getting cheaper. And so what you get is two different arguments about how people argue it's getting cheaper. The guys who lobby for the giant ISPs say it's getting cheaper because what they do is they measure price per megabit. Your bill goes up, but you're buying a gigabit now, so it's cheaper. Like, no, I'm paying $30 more a month.
While he's paused, let's just all look at Travis's dog.
Kira.
Yeah, Kira wanted to say hi. She was yelling.
She's a lot bigger than the last time I saw her.
Yeah, isn't
she? She is.
She looks like a proper Shiba Inu now.
Yeah.
She's pretty.
Yeah, it has an attitude too. So yeah.
So Doug, you were saying the price per bit, it's like this, it's ridiculous. They used to do a price per channel also when they were throwing all kinds of new channels out there. It's a gimmick. Prices are going up. Profits are going up for the most part.
Right.
I think the only way that Travis or Kim, I'm guessing, could lower their prices more is by significantly slowing down investment, right? At that point, you could, in theory, I'm guessing, right, Travis, without eating your seed corn?
Yeah, well, the biggest has been interest rates for us.
Right, but if you didn't have to worry about taking out new debt, then
no, yeah. So if we stopped expanding, and if interest rates went down, and if cost of living went down, and
what if cost of living just stayed the same? I mean, so if cost of living goes back to a 1 or 2% per increase per year, at that point, I would think it would be a long time before you'd have to raise your prices, right?
Oh yeah. It wouldn't really be necessary.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time you raised your rates?
About a year ago, right when we were just getting slammed with all the interest rates and our material.
How about before that?
3 years earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before that, it was even longer, I think.
It was like every 3 years. You just start to outrun, just employee costs, insurance costs, just all the overhead is just insane.
Yeah, my point was more that just like if you look at the profits of Comcast and AT&T and others, I don't think it's not the same story. It's a totally different business model, and they're raising rates because they can.
And Lumen shareholder,
even with losses, right? I mean, Doug, we're expecting the rates to keep going up.
Oh yeah.
So here's what I always thought: we should lower our rates when our property tax rates go down. That's never happened either.
Actually, it has happened. Just for the record,
when?
I don't know the exact year, but I've seen it happen.
Woodrow Wilson administration.
Yeah. So one of the reasons, so every state has it different. If you want to talk about property taxes, look at it. You can look at your property in Texas and look at what it would be like. However, the reason that our properties go up in Minneapolis and St. Paul is because the state doesn't contribute as much to all of the costs in the cities that we live in, Travis.
Okay.
Property taxes are high in Texas, by the way. So,
yeah,
they don't have
income tax.
No income tax. I'll trade property tax for income any day. Well, but we're in Minnesota, so yeah.
All right. We're gonna move away from taxes and anything else on pricing. Kim, any thoughts on pricing?
Utopia is probably, some of our service providers are about to do a price increase, but it's a pass on cost that we are giving to our providers. But it's the first price increase we've given to anyone in 12 years. But it is. I mean, I would love for us to be lowering prices, and hopefully we will at some point. But we made it through all of the inflation without doing it. But it is now just about time, just a couple buck pass through to our ISPs. But yeah, no, it is definitely an interesting time. But it is, when you're having some of those constraints on one side of that, you don't want to raise your prices because you have competitiveness on this side, and that you're almost forced to. It is it's a little bit of a pickle, but one we are navigating right now as we speak.
So that leaves us to.
I'm curious about, you said that there was a lot of competition and the incumbents are lowering their prices. Are they dropping below your prices or just coming down?
Some of them per if you go to the broadband label, no. But if you go the nutrition label, but if you go to what their promotional price is, absolutely. You're seeing in some of the areas, you have Quantum Fiber, which is, Chris's Lumen over there, that you're seeing $35 for gig. And I mean, there's some T's and C's that go along with that it says it's only as long as the technology or the offering is there. But then you're seeing, I'm seeing some pretty competitive prices coming in some of these markets, but it is not their everyday price. And that's where the nutrition labels, in my opinion, have won in this battle, because it's helping consumers really get past some of the fluff that some of the providers put in their pricing.
Kim, I think the price for life could be also known as, we're just so happy that you're with us. We need customers to report to Wall Street. please stick around.
But this is where Chris is like, I love this price for life because I might make more money if this happens.
No, I just like having fiber at my home, and I like paying less than I did it for Comcast for a lot more, and no data cap. And as soon as Travis gets over here, I will abandon whatever their price for life is, and hopefully by then I'll have a home network inside my house that goes more than 1 gigabit, so I can take full advantage.
Well, Lumen lost 50,000 customers last quarter, so they are hurting. So yeah.
But they gained Chris.
Yes.
They, and not only that, but 50,000 on a much lower base than their competitors, who have a lot more customers and lost a similar number. Yeah, I mean, I'll say, we've been a customer of Lumen for enterprise, and it was awful. It still is. It's dealing with them is just the worst. Comcast has bad customer service, but it's light years ahead of what we experienced with Lumen on the business end. It was really terrible.
3-hour wait yesterday on hold
for Comcast for you
for Quantum customer service.
What were you doing?
Oh, it was just people complaining online about it.
Oh. Yeah.
We had a 3-hour hold time.
All right. I wanted to ask, so CNN getting rid of Brian Fung, their telecom person. Mostly written stories from what I could tell. It's not like CNN ever wanted to put anything telecom related on the actual airwaves. But Wall Street Journal seems like they have fewer telecom beat folks. The New York Times, pretty poor coverage. Washington Post, less and less, I feel like. And I was just curious, does it matter that the sort of the periodicals of record have decided that telecom is not a thing to write about?
Well, they're not writing about a lot of other topics too. I mean, they're just getting rid of good reporters who write good stories. I mean, they keep slimming down, right? So I don't think it's a problem. I mean, they're all covered somewhere. Well, it's not a problem for us because we're in industry. It's a problem for people not in the industry. So,
right, that's the issue, right? It's like if you're just interested in following the markets or something like that, it might be harder for you to do that.
Well, it's very much harder because even when there is stuff written, it's behind a damn paywall. So the casual person's not going to subscribe to the LA Times just to get an article. So, yeah, so it's a problem. So,
Travis or Kim, do you ever look to those major periodicals for telecom coverage, or you just ignore them anyway?
I use Apple News, so sometimes I can get access to them because I pay like the $10 a month through Apple News. But I agree with you. Some of those those articles that I'm interested in. Then when I've seen them, Doug, they're behind a paywall. So I'm like, am I that interested in them? And usually pass them by, because if you're not reading the other stuff, then why even get it? And then you can probably find somebody in the industry who PDF'd it or something, and they can pass it on to you. But
see,
I don't do that.
If you write a blog every day, people send me 20 articles a day. That's great.
Travis, I know you read.
Well, I was going to say this, Chris. I just don't think that telecom is on the forefront of the conversation anymore. Like, we have short memories. COVID is past, or, for where we're quarantined is past. So I don't think it's on people's, in their concerns right now, for the most part. I think more of the economy is. So I think that's why you're seeing them cover it less, at least in my opinion.
What you just said is we're going to have a real challenge getting to like show 200, aren't we?
If you're a geek, you're still watching this. And our two followers, I think, are still going to be interested in broadband. 100 episodes, God bless them.
But I mean, the reason that I have a little bit of a concern is that, we work for an organization in which we're trying to highlight things. And if we want to get, a lot of coverage about, tribal internet access in DC or something, is harder and harder now, right? Trying to get like national coverage on a major issue is harder when there's no reporter assigned to it for the top publications. So then we're solely in trade publications, in which no one who's not already interested sees it, and just gets much harder. So I think it's hard for the kind of work that I'm trying to do. Kim, I think it's harder for municipal broadband to get a bigger audience. And I mean, I agree that I think people think telecom is less sexy, but this is this is in the news. It's supposed to be the stuff that matters for moving the world, moving markets, and all kinds of things, and it underrides it, undergirds it. So I don't know. Maybe Travis, do you think it's any thoughts on that?
I don't know. Isn't the legacy media really struggling on a lot of fronts? And I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many views this one would get.
I mean, I think the New York Times is at all-time highs, or recently was. So some of it is struggling. Yes. Some of it is just a choice.
There's also an age issue. I just saw statistics this morning that something like 80% of people over 65 still read traditional, but only something like 35% of people under 35. So they're going to lose their audience anyway. So
they're going to lose their audience, but it's like a keystone species. Like, so much of the media that they consume is taking its cues from these reporters. And if those reporters aren't there, then Travis, you were going to say something else.
You know what? But I've got the secret weapon. I'm not sure if you guys have access to it. I get it every day. Pots and Pans by CCG. Well, what else do I need? I get it all. So Doug does all the hard work, so I don't have to.
Yeah, but Travis, have you ever noticed when he's talking about a serious topic, he doesn't come to me or you first to get our opinion? It's like, Doug, lay the landscape.
I've said this many, many, many times. I'm waiting for the article that actually includes us in it. That'll be the highlight. That'll be the highlight. Yep.
I'm waiting. There's going to be a blog on Show 100. That's going to be what, next July?
Yeah. The reason the dog's freaking out, Chris, you got rain coming like crazy to you.
Yeah, no, I think it just passed over.
I can see it. I can see it out your window.
Yeah, so that's why the dog's going nuts here.
Yeah, that's right about the time I'm going to be heading over to my son's school. So yay for me.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I think the last thing I want to have, we can keep it relatively brief, is this question of what to expect out of the next Federal Communications Commission. And the reason I want to put this up here was, and I'm not gonna get into a rant. I already had a mini rant, but I do feel like if Harris wins, my expectation is that the next FCC can do whatever it wants, and my allies are just going to be cool with it, because this FCC has done nothing and has lost no support, has had no criticism for how little it's accomplished. And I'm frustrated. I feel like a Trump FCC is a total wild card, except it will likely be cracking down on any speech that is unpopular with the president. And a Harris FCC, I don't see any reason to think that it will actually move forward with the priorities that most of us have for internet access. Talk me off the ledge. Doug, you can go first. Or Kim, you're ready to go. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you want a Jeep back? Is that what we're saying? Like Travis's favorite FCC chairman of all times. Did I just hear that from Chris Mitchell?
I would like to see progress. That's what I would like to see. Doug?
Well, I think if Harris wins, they won't change anybody at the FCC. It's going to be the same existing commissioners. I don't think you'll see a change.
And I think that's remarkable. And, you know, as for what I'd like to see an FCC that recognizes that Doug's problem is not solved. Doug's home needs a better connection, you know, like an FCC that recognizes the actual reality out there rather than whatever the big cable and telephone companies think, you know, people should put up with.
This show should be named Doug's House is Not Connected.
Episode
I'll see you, Travis.
2.
Yeah, no. So if the Harris presidency, everything will stay the same. If Trump comes in, we're going to get some of that sweet 7 gigahertz like he did last time with the 6.
Who's in 7 gigahertz, Travis? I don't even know.
Doesn't matter. We're going to clear them out. Probably the
military. It's military.
Yeah. Probably aircraft carriers that we have a ton of here in Minnesota. So yeah, it's all.
Well, that would be prime for sharing. We'll see. You know, we'll see if that's a priority of Carr's administration. I don't think it will be.
He's for the big guys. So yeah.
We need more spectrum. That's all we need. We can solve this all.
I think that if Carr gets spectrum, it is going to be auctioned off and be unavailable to you, Travis.
I don't know. Last time around that we got all 6. So I think we get more. We get more power this time. We solve those rural problems with good, high quality, independent operators. Chris, it checks all your boxes.
I would love to see that, Travis. I don't see it happening. Doug?
Well, there's a lot of places in the world that don't look like Minneapolis. You know, go to the mountains and try to build those networks. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Kim, what are your priorities for the FCC? Like, what would you like to see, given again your various advocacy hats that you put on?
To be fair, I just want to see accurate maps. I mean, if we could just start there, that's a baseline effort. I think they need to focus on one thing and not try to save the world, which I think that they've tried to address, and they've got nothing accomplished. They've spoken a lot of stuff and nothing has come through. So let's just focus on getting maps, like you were talking about, Chris, of where accurate coverage and what it really looks like, because the maps are so freaking crucial to the disbursement of the money.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think a top priority for a government agency should be making accurate data available to inform markets and investment of all public investment, private investment, whatever it is, having accurate data that would be available. I would even, at the risk of
for free.
For free, yes. No,
yes.
Exactly. The idea of NOAA being privatized freaks me out. And what the repercussions of that across all sectors of the economy are very worrying. So yes, there should be accurate data available under much better license terms than this FCC got from the incredible amounts of money it threw at CostQuest. And then beyond that, I think, you know, there might be value, although it might be too late, in the old proposal by John Chambers, which would be also a national I'm trying to think of the model of how much we believe it would cost to connect those who have been left behind. So, you know, I expect that the FCC will be litigating around the digital discrimination stuff, that's going to be in the courts. The FCC is basically going to be in the courts for net neutrality and stuff like that. And that can't be the sum total of everything that it does. Go ahead, Doug.
They're going to spend the next 4 years in court fighting over the old stuff. That's all they're going to do.
Yeah. And, you know, there's a lot of people who I think would support a lot of the solutions I would put forward, if not for the fact that they recognize that these agencies get captured and then they don't do the things that we'd like them to do because they are so swayed by industry, not even industry, by the biggest cable and telephone companies and the wireless companies rather than the sum total. I mean, there's thousands of ISPs out there and a few of them get to meet with the commissioners every week, right? So end of the summer. I'm looking forward to the fall. Or somewhere in the fall, I think we're going to have a 100th episode.
I'm looking to go to the closet and find my aviator coat. So, yeah.
Exactly.
It's a thing. It's a thing.
I think this storm is going to drop the dew point, so I'm going to welcome it hitting my house. We've been way too hot, and I'm looking forward to a relief, and I don't know, maybe finding some motivation, because I've been on vacation and it's been awesome. And I am right now, I'd be very fine staying that way through September. So if you don't see me, just assume I'm doing well. I hope that you all will have a good final few days of the summer. We'll be back in the neighborhood of 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll have a really, really fun, interesting episode with lots of background, lots of the clips from the old shows. But who knows? Maybe we'll be back in 99.88. Thank you. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Kim. Charter, I was going to say something not nice, but we'll keep the clean tag. Doug, thank you for persevering. And Kira, good luck with that storm.
Here we go. Yeah.
Thank you, Kara.
Another fun episode of Connect This.